Blink-182 are back with the deluxe edition to One More Time Part 2, which means we have 8 new Blink-182 songs. One More Time was released back in 2023, last year, and it was the first time in a long time that we got new music from Mark, Travis, and Tom. I think for the most part, One More Time was generally received fairly, like it got positive reviews. I don't remember anybody necessarily just all out hating it. Have I really gone back to the album? Honestly, not too much. You know, the anthem part 3, and honestly, my favorite song from the album is Bad News. I'm looking at the track list now, and yeah, those are really the only 2 songs that I really go back to. More Than You Know was pretty good. The title track was pretty good. But, you know, you have songs like Edging, which I cannot believe that was the first song that was released off of this album. But, yeah, Bad News and Anthem Part 3, I could dance with me a little bit. Now, after the original release of One More Time, we got 2 digital exclusive songs, Cut Me Off and See You. So that gives us the 8 new songs for One More Time Part 2. I already talked about All in My Head and No Fun when those songs initially came out, so obviously I've had some more time to sit with those songs and listen to those songs, and No Fun kind of grew on me. That chorus is super fun, and just the kind of topic of the song, Blink talking about how the punk scene was changing from the 90s to the 2000s when, you know, emo, pop punk, and punk rock all blew up in popularity. That's a super interesting topic, especially for Blink-182 to talk about. I'd love to have them talk about it more in interviews and stuff like that, not just the song. I mean, they are the biggest pop punk band in the world, so hearing their thoughts and, you know, stories from that time I think would be super interesting. But with that song, I cannot get the All-American Rejects, the last song, out of my head when I listen to that song, because both songs have almost the same exact intro. And honestly, All in My Head, don't have too much to say about it. I really haven't gone back to listen to it. And after listening to all the new songs, I don't know if it's just me, but I cannot get the Skiba era out of my head. I know I said that when I was talking about All in My Head and No Fun, and I saw some people agree with me, so I hope I'm not going totally crazy, but when you listen to the new songs on this album, One Night Stand or Can't Go Back, I hear the Skiba era. And to be clear, I'm not saying that's inherently a negative thing. I know in my Skiba era video, I might not have been as clear as I wanted to be, but I think those albums are fine. I don't hate them like some people do. California overall was probably better than 9, but that second half of 9 is as close as we got to the perfect mix of Alkaline Trio and Blink-182. Matt Skiba obviously being the lead singer in Alkaline Trio. And my overall thoughts about the Skiba era, just to make it really short, was that we never got that perfect mix of Trio or Blink, but we got close to it on that second half of 9, and some of these songs on One More Time Part 2 remind me of that. And then you have songs like Everyone Everywhere. When it gets to those really intense parts, the first thing I thought of was Boxcar Racer, but then on some of the more quieter or lighter moments, I guess I should say, it almost reminds me of Neighborhoods, or maybe even Dogs Eating Dogs. So Blink, I'm not saying that these songs were taken from the past, although I swear I saw that One Night Stand, like there's a video of Tom playing that song from like a few years ago. I could be wrong, but we know that there were a ton of songs on the cutting room floor for California and 9, so it wouldn't really surprise me if one of those songs made it to the deluxe edition of this album. But yeah, I kept thinking of the Skiba era and Neighborhoods era. And again, to be clear, Neighborhoods, I like that album. That first half of Neighborhoods, I think, is great. And if Blink-182 ever went back to that kind of a sound, I'm all in. If You've Never Left is probably my favorite song on the album so far. It's about as classic Blink as you can get, at least on Part 2, the 8 new songs we have here. Take Me In is also a good song, but I really think that song is just the chorus. I think a lot of people are just going to latch on to that, so maybe it'll become like a TikTok sound or something. My overall take on deluxe editions of albums are, for the most part, we know that any songs on a deluxe edition of an album, the band themselves didn't think those songs were good enough to be on the album, the original album, the album proper. So I never treat any of these songs too harshly. I mean, it's kind of like, a deluxe edition is kind of like a dessert. It's an extra treat from the band. And honestly, I don't even know how many casual fans are going to check out the deluxe edition of an album. I mean, this is Blink-182, so maybe this is an outlier. But the hardcore fans I know are going to sink their teeth into this because, you know, they're hardcore Blink-182 fans. And when I was listening to some of these songs, I was like, oh yeah, the hardcore Blink fans are going to love it because they're going to pick, they kind of sound, a lot of the songs on this album almost sound they come from, you know, a few different eras of Blink-182. My overall point here is I'm not going to complain about brand new Blink-182 songs, considering a few years ago we didn't even know if we were ever going to get new Blink-182. Speaking of Blink-182 eras, I don't know if you heard the rumor, but I know I did, that Blink-182 was maybe considering doing an Eras tour, similar to what Taylor Swift is doing right now. First off, yes, I'm in immediately. Can you imagine all the deep cuts that Blink-182 could play? Songs from EPs, songs that aren't on Spotify, B-sides, demos, all that stuff. Now, how does that transition to, you know, a big arena? I don't know. Would Blink ever do that kind of a tour in clubs? We're talking less than 1,000, less than a 500 capacity. Maybe, but again, those would probably sell out instantly. But man, you know, being able to see Blink-182 in a smaller venue like that would be such a unique experience, especially if they were, and maybe not just playing a specific album all the way through, but playing deep cut stuff that real, you know, that the hardcore fans could really sink their teeth into. I think that would be kind of fun. But even just doing a random, you know, Blink-182 Eras tour, I think could work. Like I was just talking about earlier, can you imagine Blink-182 playing a bunch of songs off Neighborhoods or the Dogs Eating Dogs EP? And let alone if we can get into the fun that the Skiba era part of that tour could be. Can you imagine Matt Skiba joining the band again? Can you imagine playing or hearing a studio version of a song with Mark, Tom, Travis, and Matt Skiba? Again, I am all in. I mean, that new Alkaline Trio album is awesome. It might be my favorite album of the year. So just get all the members of Alkaline Trio, get all the members of Blink-182, put them together, and let's go crazy. Let's have some fun. Let's see what they sound like. So what do you think about the new songs from Blink-182 on their new deluxe edition of One More Time, Part 2? Please like the video. It really helps me out. Please subscribe if you haven't. Tell all your friends, and thanks for watching.